Surprise. Surprise,
Surprise, motherfucker.
Surprise, motherfucker. All right.
Surprise,
Just
motherfucker.
jump right in it or what? Let's do
Do
this.
it.
Boom. Blind. What is up, guys? Thank you for tuning into the Modern Macho. This is your host, Juan Carlos, and I'm here with my boy Santi.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
We are two gentlemen documenting our journey. We're embracing the dudes that we are in order to become better for ourselves and our village. We're tired of dick measuring contests. We're tired of fitting the mold. And we're tired of pretending to be somebody that we're not. After each episode, we hope that we're able to plant a seed, get you to start a conversation with your circle, challenge your thinking, motivate you to focus on growth, and hopefully bring awareness to the twisted programming that we've been brought up with believing. Today, we are recapping. We missed you last week. I know you had stuff going on, so we couldn't make it happen. As I told everyone, you were okay. But yeah, I was able to talk to, I was able to talk to Christine, which was cool. She got to drop some gems on me and educate me more on breath work and the benefits of it, and talked a little bit about the experience. And so I was thinking today we could share a little bit about that. And I think more importantly, dude, just catch up, just kind of like see where we're at. I think we've both been kind of going through a lot these last couple of weeks. I was like, maybe we just check in. Maybe again, just check in with ourselves. I don't know that we're gonna have any crazy topics today, so y'all should just stick around and hang out with us today. Pour a drink. I poured myself a drink. I think you did too. And
Yes,
we can just
sir.
just
Cheers.
really cheers, bro. Cheers. Really just kind of kick back and take a second to breathe, because yeah, it's much needed. So yeah,
100%,
bro.
bro.
How you doing, man? How are you?
Good. Fucking just transitioning, that level of transition with so many things. And so, as I think I mentioned a while back, maybe a month ago now, that I was going to be moving on from my Long Beach gig. So started over at Riverside, moved in with the parents, with my wife, started this new gig. And so, it's so many fucking different things, even like simple things, dude. Like my schedule is now all of a sudden like 2 to 3 hours longer, where
Mm.
I'm having to wake up like at fucking 4:30, 5 a.m. every morning, be at
What?
work by 8. I used to be at work by 9:30, maybe even 10. So it's like even little shit like that. My morning routines, driving to work, the traffic between here and Riverside, which is super close, but that part of the 60 just gets wild. So even like simple things like that and having to adapt to those, while at the same time, like I know Denise has been adapting to a lot. Like her commute is no joke. Like she's literally spending on the road on a good day a total of 3 hours a day on a good day. You know what I'm saying? So
That's there and back, right?
there and back total. I mean, that's a good, and honestly, like that's probably even like I don't think she's ever had like it's at least I mean, yeah, like an hour and a half there and like 2 hours back. And
Oh,
so like having to support her through that and it's I just feel like it's I mean, good though. Like you know what I'm
sure,
saying? Like
sure.
where it feels like, I'm not necessarily like there's definitely those points where I'm like, oh my God, dude, what the fuck is going on? And but then I think about it and I'm like, well, how fucking privileged am I to still have a roof over my head, still like have food, still have a job,
Right,
things are
right.
going good. Like this is the trajectory we're going. It's just the transition, and then like the little bits of sacrifice that I'm having to give up. But that's a negotiation. I think that all of us always have to kind of fucking go through. And um, so yeah, and on top of that, like something I haven't mentioned, I got the okay to share with
Oh,
you all.
what? We're doing that?
You were doing this.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's been some time that I've known, but Denise is actually pregnant.
Let's go.
We're expecting our first child for this early December. So she's 20 weeks now, and so you can only imagine, like fucking like supporting her through that, which obviously is a lot for her, and for me, constantly having to make sure that I'm taking her into consideration, because I mean, it's so easy for me to fucking forget, like, and I tell her that all the
Right.
time, like. I'm not carrying a kid, like like my hormones aren't being fucked with, like I'm not
No.
right, and so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
for her, that on top of doing this long commute, on top of living in with her in-laws, like, I mean, it's very much like as soon as I come home, like I need to be there for someone else. Like it's not about me, and that's kind of a trend that I'm gonna have to get used to. Like it's not really gonna be about me anymore. And so, and and it is right because at the end of the day, like, and it's about Denise. Like we're gonna be the one supporting this kid, and so we need to take care of ourselves. But once again, sacrifice, negotiation, and I think I can only imagine that parenthood takes you to the brink of that. And so I think a lot of it's just that preparation and starting to sacrifice, like,
Right.
starting
Right.
to, like, hey, I'm in it, like I'm here, like yesterday we had an ultrasound, and it was one of those things. I just started this job and I'm already missing days, and I'm like, hey, I can't feel bad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I need to do what I need to do. Like even like one of my coworkers, she was fucking with me today, like, oh, where were you yesterday, da, 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 da. Oh, and then today I show up, oh, you show up early all of a sudden, da, da, da. And part of me is like, shut the fuck up.
You're right. It's
Like,
triggering, right? It's
like,
triggering.
shut the
Yeah.
fuck
Yeah.
up. And I just said, oh, laugh. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Right.
And like, whatever. Like, I was pretty, like, more so just like triggered because it's like, dude, I'm doing my fucking best. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I
Right.
don't need you in my fucking ear. Even, and it's joking, but it's my brain that's been so hard on me. It's not even her, like, Um, but it was funny because that's one point later on that she mentioned it again. I'm like, have you asked me where I was earlier yesterday? She's like, no. And I'm like, I was in an ultrasound with my wife. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But I was just joking. And I kind of laughed too. It was like, I didn't, whatever, I think that was just me being fucking little, like, like egotistical in that moment. Like, and also try,
Sure.
like, also wanting to share, like, these are things that I'm going through, and there's going to be a lot more of this, and that concern too, because it's like, don't make me look bad where I'm just starting. Like there's just a lot of things that that I'm navigating. With that being said, just a lot of fucking change, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
and so even to the point, I mean, last podcast, dude, I just totally forgot, dude, just totally blanked, and I was like, fuck, that's right, I have a podcast.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
once again, like, it's trying my best and at the same time telling myself, like, dude, you don't have to do it all. Like, like
Exactly.
you you prioritize what you can do. Because I also, like, I mentioned at some point sacrificing and yada yada, but it's like I still need to take care of myself. Like whether it's like at the most bare minimum, whatever, like if I can't, if I, like, how am I gonna be able to take care of others if I can't take care of myself, right? And and that's going to extend to, like, parenthood, I can only imagine, which you could probably give more wisdom on that. I don't know shit.
Yeah.
So
It's funny. Like, I'm like excited for you. I mean, I've congratulated you. We've talked about this. I'm fucking excited for you, dude. And I feel like I can finally, not that I couldn't before, but it's kind of like, oh shit, like you're in it now. Like now some of this stuff's gonna make sense, right?
yeah,
But I do think like you got to give yourself a lot of grace. I think you're a lot of steps ahead in that you already acknowledge and you're already showing so much compassion and empathy towards Denise, and seeing that like between the commute, between the baby, between everything that's going on, like you already acknowledge those things. And I think the discomforts, honestly, dude, I feel like it's going to be more on seeing the value in you prioritizing yourself, because it's like you
yeah,
understand now that you have to show up with compassion because of things that are going on around you. And to tell you the truth, bro, the best way to do it is to show up for yourself. Because
yeah,
if not, and that's where it gets sticky though, because it just seems like we don't have time for that part. And if
yeah,
we do, we kind of put it at the bottom of the list, And so, some of that stuff I think kind of gets a little washy, but I'm excited for you. I think, like I said, give yourself a lot of grace. I think you're acknowledging a lot of things, even at work, like those triggers, right? Like you
hmm,
said, who's told you you're a bad worker? Who's told you that you're missing work? It's all in
right,
our heads, right? And
yeah,
acknowledging those moments and just kind of taking a step back to be like, hey, when they tell me these things, it made me feel like I wasn't a good worker. And it's like, yeah, that nobody said that, right? Like this is
exactly,
this is now, I think, the part that now we really start applying the shit that we've been learning about, right? And like showing
hmm,
up and understanding what that's like. And I also think, dude, that both of those worlds can live simultaneously, right? Like you're saying, like people have it worse. Yes, but that shouldn't take away from your discomfort and your growth and
right,
what you're having to go through right now. And you know what? Yes, you are not carrying the baby, but it's a difficult transition for us as dads too.
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
kind of like you said, allowing both of those worlds to exist where they both get the love in the right places, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, you're on the right track, man. You're on the right track. I think definitely needing a moment to fucking breathe always helps.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, bro. 100%. What about you, bro? What you been up to?
Look, man, I've really been focusing on I think on being intentional with this platform, right? On how we can really help other men, on how we can deliver our message better. I think even on how could I put this like I almost feel like I'm done fucking around, right? In the sense of this thing might not blow up overnight, but at the same time, I think of trying to create something that's sustainable where I know that I'm at the forefront of this and I know that I'm putting a lot of effort and I don't take that away. I try to be very intentional with it. But at the same time, I'm like, I'll give you a perfect example right now. Wednesdays are the days that I don't have Julian, right? So it's like to me, this is my privileged day to say I can be in front of the computer, record this podcast, and that's fine. Because I know yesterday that I have him and tomorrow that I have him, I don't do any of this shit, right? Um, and so I take advantage of that while I can, but I still keep in the back of my mind, like at some point when I settle, when I meet the right person, if I have more kids, who knows, right? Like I don't have like certain expectations, but the direction that I want to take my life in, I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here at home having dinner with my family, like, yo, I gotta go because I gotta record this podcast, you know. And if I am because it's part of the grind, then it has to be intentional. And it's kind of something that you and I had discussed when we talked about like with the music, right? Where it was like,
Hmm.
hey, if we're gonna do these sessions, and we were like, I don't think we ever talked about it, but we had a couple weeks where we were committed to these jam sessions for at least like 2 hours, and we were driving out to San Pedro, right? And so
Yeah.
there was this thing of like, hey, I'm down to make those drives. Like that's kind of half my day. I took Julian with me, and it was like, if we're planning on doing something with this and potentially taking it somewhere, then I'm down. But if this is just a jam session to be a jam session, I love to sing and I love the jam
Yeah.
session, but like I don't have the time for that right now.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
like I know fun is important, but like I don't have that much room for it like that. And so yeah, man, I think being really intentional, to be honest with you, and I want to share it kind of more with you. Shout out real quick to the people that are on the live. Looking over here at the phone, we got some people here
Hey.
on the IG. Um, but the father program has been really eye opening, man, and I've just been. I feel like I've been learning a lot. I feel like it's been very healing, and more importantly, I think it's been such a blessing that I get to share space with other dads that are trying to be in better places, right? Embracing the parts of me that I'm starting to notice that there's a voice in the back of my head that says that like I'm not ready, or it's still not enough, right? Like it's like
Mm.
if you understand, if even though I have tools and just like the both of us really, like we have wisdom, we have knowledge based on books and based on life experience that we can help, right? That we can give. And there's this part of me still that tells me no, there's still more to learn, right? Or like I'll give you a perfect example, like right now learning about being a nurturing father, right? And how certain approaches that we take are either going to bring blind obedience, right, or are going to bring confidence to where our children are making genuine decisions, right? Like you can take if you think about it, I feel like that's what's really happening right now is there's a lot of blind obedience, and I think that's why our generation has such a hard time listening to anyone, and why we've just all turned into these defiant rebels. And I think there needs to be a certain level of discipline, and I also think it's valid because we've been raised with such blind obedience, which was just you do this, why, it doesn't matter, you do it, right? Either because there was fear thrown on us, right? Where you like we were hit or we were yelled at or we were shamed or whatever those things were that we just did them, but we never consciously thought about them. Like
Hmm.
grades. Like I graduated with 3.6, which wasn't a perfect score, but it was pretty damn good. Now, if you ask me if I cared to learn, no. I wasn't actually learning anything. I wasn't educating myself.
Hmm.
I was just trying to get my parents off my back.
Mm.
Right. And so really learning about how nurturing is able to guide them so that they can put the pieces together. In this case, even myself now as a grown ass man, right? And doing it with Julian, than to just giving him the answers and telling him what he needs to do.
Hmm.
It's been very eye opening. And so just having these moments of like, whoa, I can apply these things that I've been applying that are now being validated. And then that voice that's like, no, you're still not a good parent. You need to learn more before
Mm.
you can, you know what I mean? Like you still need to do more, you still need to learn. And so just navigating through that. Um, that's been the main thing, is that the workshops that we're now doing on Sundays, which is cool. It's a small intimate group that I'm like really looking forward to bonding with and also building more community with. The time that I've been spending with Julian lately, dude, has been dope. Has been dope. I think Alicia Keys said something about you don't get the life that you ask for, you get the life that you believe in,
Mm.
right? And she basically went on to say, what does your life look like? And that's what you believe in. And through all this, me being hard on myself and things that I want to work on and I want to get better about, I was like, one of the things that I feel like I really do have in my life right now is a great connection with my son.
Mm.
And so I'm like, okay, cool. I know that, like, that's what my life consists. It's almost like that whole idea of where are your values and where is your time spent? You know,
Right.
where I was like, my value is family, and I don't like work is just it's a moneymaker, but I don't prioritize that, right? But then it
Hmm.
was like, okay, cool. Let's forget about what we think our values are. Just focus on what your time is actually going towards. Where is it? And I'm like, shit, I haven't seen my family in 3 4 weeks. I haven't
Mm.
called in 2 3 days, right? And so it was the same idea of like, go based off what your time looks like, and then see how that aligns with what you actually believe in, and you can start there. And so I think to give myself flowers, I was like, whoa, my connection right now with Julian is like stronger than ever, dude. Between conversations, between just the time that we're spending, between even acknowledging that there is a lot of him, just like we're a fucking team. We really are a team right now. And so um yeah, all that stuff's just been very dope. Putting myself out there more. I've been networking, meeting other people from other podcasts. Shout out to Liz, who have also opened the door for me to have more of these conversations. Um, Trying to use social media in better ways that it's like I'm over it, but at the same time, I'm seeing that there's beauty to it, not only between the people that I'm meeting, but also just creating the impact and sharing our messages and doing what we're trying to do, you know? And then outside of that, still having my job,
Yeah.
which think about my job, dude, is it's a roller coaster, right? We have weeks where it's like we have all this to do, hurry, 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 and I'm like completely disconnected from everything. And then there are other weeks where it's we have a little it spaces out, so we're like, okay, cool, like we managed to stay busy the whole time, but there's never just like this, and it's not supposed to be, right? Because there's deadlines that we have to meet,
Hmm.
and it's not like operations on the construction side where oh, well, we want to get this job done by Friday. But if there's obstacles that get in the way, the dates just get pushed back, right? And they
Yeah.
try to figure it out. No, no, no. When with what I do with estimating is if the job is due Friday, if your number isn't in by Friday, you're fucked. Like
Mm.
you just don't get a chance anymore. So it's like I'm working on putting numbers together
I
for a whole
see.
month. And if it says it's due Friday at 2 o'clock and I don't have that number to them on time, I literally wasted the whole fucking month.
Like you lose it, right?
Yeah, dude. So it's like for my job, it's which I like it. I mean, I have my moments where I tend to procrastinate because it's what I seem to do.
Yeah.
But because of that, that's why there's those weeks where it's like, hey, and then we're really trying to pick up our traction with the works that we're with the jobs that we're getting. So sometimes as you're working on one, it's like, oh, hey, Carlos,
Mm.
can you take a look at this other one? Okay, when's it due? Yesterday. Fuck, you know what I
Ooh.
mean? And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
shit, now I got this. So, just been juggling through all that, trying to stay as present as possible. And then, therapy, the mother wound is the realest one right now that we're navigating through. I think, yeah, I guess what I can share about that is through everything that I've been learning, I've been making peace with a lot of things. I've been healing a lot of things. And there are certain things that I feel like I don't necessarily revisit anymore because they've just that's where I kind of asked myself, like, why are we revisiting some of these things? And
Mm.
I think I took a step back and realized like family is really important to me, right? That connection is really important to me. And I miss having that close relationship with my mother. And so in order to do that, I don't need to like point the finger at her, but I need to take a second to look within and figure out what the fuck is going on, why I feel like I'm such a dude, I feel like I'm such a cold person sometimes. Like I
Mm.
literally feel like I just don't like I feel like I don't feel,
Mm.
and I carry so much guilt for that. Even having moments where I feel very disconnected just to people in general, right? And yeah, and I feel guilty for it, and I feel like shit for it, and it's like, why do you feel? Who's telling you to feel like shit, right? And again, I think if I didn't care for it, then I'd just be like, oh, that's just how I feel, and I'm fine. But I'm like, I don't like that. I don't
Mm,
like that. I want connection. I want to be nurturing. I want to be loving. I want to be loved. And so that's kind of my driving force going into therapy right now, to get to know myself more and figure out where some of this stuff's coming up. And she's giving me a couple of tips and a couple exercises that, yeah, we'll get to those, and looking forward to them and not at the same time. But I think I definitely feel like I'm at a point in my life where I'm okay with it, because I see the beauty and the discomfort that's to come. You
yeah.
know, like I'm more
Mhm.
willing to, just like a workout where I'm like, this is gonna suck, but I'm fucking down. Let's do it. I know what's on the other
Mhm.
side, and also before I get to the other side, I want to, in a weird sense, enjoy the discomfort and the suffering that I'm about to go through, because I know the intention it's gonna be. You know.
Right. Like not doing it for the sake of getting it over with, but like,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Because I found myself that in other parts of my life I've also done that, and I don't know that I got everything out of it.
right. Yeah. I mean,
It's almost like a roller
yeah.
coaster, right? Where you're like, "All right, cool, seatbelts down," and you're like, "Fuck, we're gonna do this," you know? And then like you close your
Yeah.
eyes and you're just like, "Ah," and I mean, whatever. You get some levels of highs and lows, but then you get to the end and you're like, "Ooh, I can breathe." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cool. But it was like, so how was it? And you're like, I don't really know what the fuck happened. Just
Yeah. And I think sometimes the hardest part really is sitting down, strapping
mhm,
in, and
just
not
strapping
saying, "Get
on.
me off this bitch." Like,
Yeah,
just like do
yeah,
it. Like just like commit. And that commitment is difficult for sure. And I think that that commitment sometimes I feel that I know for me it, like drives me away from it in the first place sometimes. You know,
for
because
sure.
I think it's like, well, I'm not gonna start something I can't finish. So then fuck it. You know what I mean? Like I've for a minute have been trying to hit up the therapist that I've seen in the past, and I think the first thing that comes to my mind, the first obstacle and the only obstacle I need is like, dude, like, am I really gonna like
Wow.
I tell myself I don't have time for it. Like, I can't commit. I'm not gonna be able to follow through. And so whether it's true or not, like it's still a barrier that I think a lot of people face, And so yeah, it fucking sucks. Like because like I wanna go back.
Do
Like I
you
know
also
I want.
feel do you also feel like a little bit like, do you feel like there's any shame tied to that? Like, "Oh, you're coming back?" Like,
No,
okay,
honestly,
okay.
well, and I say that from like a standpoint of like I've been going to therapy since I was a sophomore.
Right,
I've
right, right, right.
I've gone, not gone, missed appointments, so I don't like, and I've never felt guilt or like I've never been shamed about that, and so like maybe a little bit,
Uh-huh.
but I wouldn't say it's significant for
Got
me
you.
personally,
Yeah, 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 for sure.
so
Do you
yeah.
think also because of how much more growth you've done and how much more you know, do you think that there's a part of you that like, knows the impact that the therapy will have, and so there's a level of avoidance?
Yeah, a little bit maybe. You know what? I think yes, but I think it like that level of like, oh, like I've learned enough. I think the avoidance comes across as like, well, they're not gonna ask me something I don't already know. Like like this level of like I could do it myself if I really want to, which
Mm,
which I don't think is true. Like I know I think that if I'm being honest with you, but I don't think that's true, and I think that's more so how the avoidance shows up as opposed to like, oh, this shit's really gonna fuck me up. I think it's the opposite, where I downplay it and I'm like, like, what is therapy gonna do to me that I can't do by intentionally journaling? Which
uh,
do I do that? No,
yeah, no, I hear
but
you.
like
And I
yeah.
resonate a lot with that, and I feel that what it's done for me, um, after I kinda, like, processed it, was I can do this alone, but because I've had to,
Mm, right.
like, this
Hmm,
weird
hmm,
sense of, like you said, it's not that I'm pushing my therapist away, it's just, like, I didn't realize that that's almost this trauma responsive. I'm so hyper independent because in a way I've had to be, that now the thought of, like, yes, I know having it's how I feel right now with community.
mm,
Like, I know how much better it would be if I had more community with similar,
right.
something simple like soccer, right? If I played soccer and it was like, if I had a real, like, community, I know how much that would help, right? And I
Mm,
wouldn't necessarily rely on it, but I know that there's lots of benefits to it. And I know that. But I think there's just this part of me that's like, no, I've had to do this alone for so long that I have to be able to do this by myself before I can ever build a community of other people. And I think that's where I struggle to, not even therapy, but just anyone, like let anyone in, because I'm like, I have to be able to do everything by myself first
Yeah.
before I can let them in, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Which is twisted. It's totally backwards. I mean, I think, right, if I'm reading what you're saying correctly, because
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, I think it's the perfectionist mentality,
for sure.
right? Like
For
before
sure.
diving into something, it's like, oh well, I gotta know what's what, and then I'll be comfortable enough to dive in.
Right.
Um, I don't know.
And I think there's also, for me, there's also the struggle with asking for help. I
Yeah.
still think like sometimes I don't know how to do that correctly sometimes, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, ask for help. But then there's almost this sense of maybe relying a little too much. And it's like, wait, it's almost like the first time you're vulnerable and you're not heard. And then you kind of feel like, nah, fuck this. I'm just gonna go back to doing everything myself, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, but,
Hmm.
but I'm also acknowledging that it's like you have to practice that. Just like when I first started having healthy communication with my friends, where I'm like, okay, well, what does that look like for you, right? What does
Yeah.
healthy communication look like? I haven't done this for the last 30 years. Fuck, I'm gonna be 31 this year. But like, you haven't done this for that long. All of a sudden, you want to sit here and be like, oh, I want to be great at asking for help and receiving and giving it. Like, I have to like remind myself. I think just constantly giving myself grace because there's been so much discomfort of that lately. You know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. No, most definitely. Asking for help. Um, Even just like creating boundaries. I think sometimes that could be really scary. And that's like one thing that I think as I'm like I'm thinking about as I'm stepping into this new role, into just like new fatherhood role, like with fatherhood, professional, as a partner, like different level, on all spectrums. Like the other day, like I literally wrote down, like, because I felt like I was like I had this like momentary internal snap of like, bro, I feel like I'm being pulled every fucking direction, and it's like, what about me?
Yeah.
Like that fucking split second, And so I started writing down like, okay, where do I feel like I'm being pulled, and what are things I want to do? What are things I want to do? Where am I going to find the time for them? How am I going to negotiate these boundaries? Because I think sometimes like those conversations come with like really the people I love. Like, how am I going to tell Denise? This is an example. How am I going to tell Denise, like, babe, like I feel like I really need like an hour, 2 hours a week just to play video games with my friends. So I can socialize with my friends. Like, so I can, how am I going to tell this pregnant woman who's going through this sick ass transition, like, I still need my time? Like, that feels so selfish of me.
Right.
Yet
Right.
it's like, I need something too. Like,
Yeah.
even if it sounds silly, like it allows me to disconnect. It allows me to just like do what I need to do, and whatever, like if whatever we negotiate on, like we negotiate on, and the boundaries written. But it's just awkward, once again, because you're doing it with people that you love. And I think with that, like you mentioned, reliability is this sense of like, oh no, well, like they have my best interest in me, or well, like I don't have to talk about those things because like she'll just get it, or whatever, like but that's all avoidance, I think.
Yeah.
like I,
Absolutely.
I think that's how we mask it, right? Like, I don't need to bring this up because X, Y, or Z. At the end of the day, it's avoidance because either it's shame, it's attached to shame, it's attached. And I think the shame comes up from the fact that like I'm asking for something and it seems selfish.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so, which I think we both know, if we're looking at this objectively, it's not selfish. But
Correct.
we can't
Correct.
help but fucking feel what we
Yeah, I
feel,
mean,
right?
it's and that's where all that conditioning and all that stuff behind us, I think, surfaces, right? You said it yourself, like it sounds silly. And if I may ask you, like what makes that silly?
I mean, no, yeah, it's a great question. So I think even the fact that it's like video games, like it could be even just the object, like oh
Right.
well, that's for fucking children. Like if I were to
Mm.
ask, like oh well, I'm going to read a book, like I'm gonna do something, and like it's funny because Denise fucking hates that I play video games because she's like, "What are you, a child?" And I'm just like, whatever, get the fuck off my
Yeah.
back, like like I'm gonna let you watch your stupid YouTube videos. Let me play my stupid video, and that's just the banter me and my wife have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But fucking,
We don't have to worry about getting canceled. If we lose him, it's because we know Denise isn't gonna let him come back to the
I
podcast.
know, right? I'm just gonna say I got canceled, but I got canceled
Yeah, yeah,
by my
yeah,
own wife.
yeah.
I didn't
She
say that
canceled
shit.
you.
Um, but yeah, so like so that's what it is. Sometimes it's the object, right? It's like because for all I mean, sometimes whatever relationship be like that, and
Yeah,
so it's like maybe people don't understand like what like it may look weird, and I know we've talked about this because even when it comes to gaming, like for me, it's not about the fucking game. It's
yeah,
about being able to socialize. It's about and not only socialize with people, but like it's this very like what's the word? I'm forgetting the word. Um it's a very cathartic release where I'm being able to do it with other friends. We could
right.
talk about something serious. We could talk about something light. We could just whatever talk shit to random ass people. And like it's
Not me.
never
Not,
you.
not not me. I would never. I would never.
Never.
Maybe you, but not me. Shout out to all the boys that we play with too.
Dude, and it's so funny because even when we do talk shit, like I don't feel like I talk that much shit. I feel like your brother talks like mad shit. Like he's actually
He-
really good. I'll give
yeah,
him
yeah.
fucking his props.
He's got it. He's got
So
it.
y'all do a lot. What this is what I do when I just say shut the fuck up, bro. Like I just want to like let it out. Just tell someone to go fuck themselves. Like, but it's not a witty thing. Like, and for me, it's just like whatever. Like it feels like just a cathartic release. Once again, I can't even say it feels good because now I go to sleep saying, "Oh yeah, I told him." It's just in the moment. I think what feels good is being with the with the friends, like the people that you're there with, and whatever and we talked about it. It's really about who is there in the moment,
Yeah.
and so once again, anyways, not to get too much into the whole video game shit, but
No, no, no. I mean, we're just chatting, bro. Because
yeah.
that's I agree with you 1,000%. I think because what's funny is I think there's even been moments where technically, like one of us has been roasted by some random, but it's
uh
like the fact that we're all together, and it's funny how this all kind of, I feel like it all aligns because the fact that we've all been together, it's like we've all laughed, and in a way, it just fades out, right? Like where I
yeah.
feel, I guess if I reflected to when I was a kid and it was like, oh, he picked on me, I got to give that energy
Yeah.
back. Where like there's moments where I'm even talking shit on myself, or there's times where like we're playing, we're a couple rounds in, I haven't gotten a single kill, and we're over here just talking smack amongst each other, right? And having those moments.
Yeah.
So but I think you're right. I think maybe the way that we were brought up, some of the way that we've been instilled on what video games represented have now make us feel like we're being immature, right?
Right.
And or that we're not capable of handling alone. But I love that. I love that you're communicating it. I think that's a step in the right direction. And
No.
it's now just having to sit with the fucking weirdness of what that is. And I think the way that I try to think about it is we know ourselves and how we want to perform, just like similar to work, right? And essentially, what you're trying to do is like you're trying to write your report without the laptop, without a pen, and without paper.
Yeah.
And how, if you look at it in that terms, it's almost kind of sad how deeply this has been conditioned into our thinking. Because instead of you just being like, I need my, not necessarily defensively, because I think that's also where we tend to, when we don't practice it, we tend to wait until we're on the other side. And now it's like, no, I need fucking 2 hours of video games, right? And it's
Yeah.
like we can be extreme on both ends, but it's like the conditioning is so deep that we don't even feel comfortable enough to be like, hey, I know you need me to write this paper, but I'm gonna need a laptop and a pen and a piece of paper. And
Yeah.
instead, we're like, I'm supposed to somehow do this paper without the tools, right? And again, like you're saying, I think looking at it that way is like, hey, bro, those 2 hours for that are gonna allow you to show up. And I think
Hmm.
with that practice too, one thing I've learned is as you start showing up, because I think you know yourself enough that once you start seeing how these things really help you show up better, I think even our village starts to understand a little more. Like you hear that all the time with sometimes with partners, right? Where it's like, oh, he needs to go out for a drink, or he needs to go play some
Mhm.
soccer, or even like
Yeah,
even within friends where it's like, you know what, my boy needs to go
yeah.
fucking lift some weights, or he needs to go do this,
Right.
because we start to know each other and understand like, oh, this person shows up their best when they have that.
Mhm.
Right. And so I
Mhm.
think you're right. I think the challenge isn't necessarily making the time for the video games. It's seeing the value in prioritizing that.
Mhm.
Because I think if we were there already, you'd be playing for an hour or two with all of us if we all could, right? If you knew
Mhm.
that you could show up very much present every single time.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, and there's even been time like, but like in these last few weeks where it's like I get on and it's so half-assed where I get off and I'm just like, what did I even do that
That's
for?
such a good point.
I just
Yeah.
wasted my time because half my brain was here and half my brain was there, and it's just, once again, going back to the whole thing where I was like creating those boundaries because it just feels like I'm being pulled in all these directions, and just navigating that. But I think slowly but surely, I think those boundaries will be drawn clearer and clearer and clearer. Because I think that's one thing about boundaries that's important to remember. It's not like you just draw them once and that's it. I think for a lot of times boundaries are drawn in sand, and that sand after a
Mhm.
while, like sometimes you got to redraw it a little
Yeah.
bit, maybe a little bit clearer. Maybe, I don't think anything's ever etched in cement. Very rarely is that the case, maybe a few
I like that.
things like, but very rarely are like your life routines cemented because they change year after year, month after whatever the case might be, right? And I think that's the flexibility we need to have to be successful, just human beings,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I think that's where the discipline, the clarity, and that communication comes into play. One thing that I've been learning this last couple weeks that I feel is what I'm trying to live by right now that is actually really helping me, bro, is thinking of discipline and more importantly of fun as the same way we look at sports, right? We're setting a goal, we're creating rules, we are talking about behaviors, and then we're talking about consequences, right? And so you very simple, like we'll talk soccer, right? And it's like, what is the goal? The goal is to get the ball in the net, right? It's that simple. It's to win and to get that ball in the net, right? And then you start creating rules, which is if the ball goes outside that rectangle, fucking ball's out, right? You kick the dude inside
Mhm.
the square, it's a penalty. You grab that ball with your hands, it's a foul. You kick the guy, like all these rules that are set in place, right? And one of the things that really stood out to me with that though is especially when it comes to parenting, and I think this can go for our friendships and our relationships as well, is the idea of the game isn't about the rules, right?
Mm.
Like it isn't about like I've been guilty of it, especially with Julian, where it's like, hey, we don't do this, hey, we don't do that. And it's like, dude, we put the rules out on the table so we can play the game, not
Right.
not introduce the game so we can worry about fucking rules all day, right? Where and think about what that game would look like, right? If you and I were to play soccer and the whole time I'm just like, son, you better not fucking take the ball out. You better not grab that shit with your hands. You better not. And
Mhm.
it's like, dude, let's play the fucking game. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
get it, right? And
Like
so
the rules are important, but yeah, like you said, like
the discipline's
yeah,
there, you know?
yeah.
And I think there's another part that's important with that too, which is like every player on that team is important,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think of, you know, as ourselves as captains, right? Or as essential parts to that team, if I'm a goalie, I'm not a striker. I'm not a defender.
Mhm.
But I also understand the idea that if I want to be a good captain, even if I am the goalie or I am the striker, I need to understand the role and the position of all the other players.
Yeah.
My thing is like, me, I like to play mid, but I also have to understand what the defenders are trying to do. What are the strikers trying to do? I can't
Mhm.
play their positions, but they're just as important. And I've been guilty of taking that power away, even from my own kid, right? Where it's like, hey,
Mm.
Julian, this game isn't our game. It's my game. You're in my house.
Mm.
These are the rules. It's like, nah, bruh. We are a part of the fucking team here.
Right. Yeah.
And so then from there you create your rules, bring it, make it very clear, and then after that, it's set the goal, which is to win. Then you start creating your rules and then behaviors that take you towards that, right? Maybe some of those rules are like you said, respecting each other's boundaries,
Mm.
right? Certain
Yeah.
areas that are common areas, keeping them clean, making sure that we are prioritizing quality time, whatever that might be, right? And just like in soccer, working on your footwork, making things happen, right? And everyone's different. And you know what stood out to me about that one was when it talked about worrying about the big things. right? Because
Mm,
I thought of like, okay, if you're focused on the goal, which is in this case sports, right? And everyone can relate it to their own relationships, their own households, their own friendships, whatever. But like we'll go back to the sports. If the idea is to make the ball behind the net or to fucking make a basket, right? Or you're playing golf and to get it in the hole, whatever it might be, when you focus on the big things, who the fuck cares how you swing the club? Think about
yeah,
how many athletes that, they're like get shit on because it's like, dude, that motherfucker runs with two left feet. Or that
yeah,
kicks the fucking ball really weird. Or like
hmm,
that guy when he grabs the club, look at Charles Barkley. I mean, the dude's not all that great, but what I'm getting at is like everybody has their own style of how they do it.
yeah,
If the goal is to make the basket,
hmm,
bro, that shit was so eye opening to me because I was like, fuck, like
yeah,
I've been guilty so much about focusing on how I want Julian to play the game,
yeah.
or
And you
sometimes
probably
even
judge others too,
yeah,
huh?
that's what I
Is
was gonna
that,
say. Sometimes I'll take parenting out of it. Sometimes I've even judged or I've been frustrated towards coworkers, towards friends, towards family because I feel like they're not playing the way that I play.
right?
And so I'm like, maybe the problem is I don't have any clarity on what our fucking goal is here,
Mm, yeah,
right? And then of course there's consequences, right? Like you said, you hit someone, it's a foul. But again, it's like it's all an encouraging part of the game.
hmm,
If this happens, this happens. If that happens, then this happens, right?
right,
But there's still no fear tied. Like with soccer, hey, son, if you use your feet, you can pass the ball. If you use your hands, it's a foul.
hmm,
Like notice how there wasn't any. You better not fucking use your hands because it's gonna be out.
yeah,
Because now what happens is now San's just worried about not grabbing the ball with his hands.
right, yeah, no, exactly, yeah,
And at the end of the day, I'm like, I've using soccer is like, bro, team chemistry is such an important part of the game.
hmm,
I've been in some teams that I've had a lot of fun and we've made some shit happen. And I've been on teams where we haven't made shit happen, but we try to have fun, right? And I've been in enough teams and I'm sure we've all played enough sports and have been in very very different teams to understand what those dynamics do, right? And then and it was interesting because one thing that was mentioned that really stood out to me too was they talked about Brady and Kobe because it was this
mm,
whole like, well, the problem is that now everyone's soft and we can't be tough like Kobe and the MJs and the Brady's and one of the things that I think stood out to me there was that I agree to a certain extent that I think that there's a different approach and I think where we do miss the mark and this is my opinion in my opinion only. I think where we miss the mark is we also fail to realize how much work MJ, Kobe and Brady were putting into themselves.
yeah,
And I think about myself as a parent, and I'm like, well, I've tried to be the Kobe, Brady, and MJ of like tough love, tough love, tough love. But I wasn't trying to figure out how to be nurturing. I wasn't going to therapy. I wasn't trying to become emotionally intelligent. And like I wasn't leading by example,
mm, yeah,
and I found myself having this kind of like this bias towards what seemed easier for me to do. But
hmm,
anyway, to wrap that whole thought up, dude, this whole concept of just like having clarity on the goal, and because it's important to and think of the when I say discipline, think about like when the ball does go out, right? There is no fear, there is no or sometimes there is in certain teams, but like you don't need it, right? Hey, the ball goes out. What should we be doing? Hey, fuck it, dude. Run it back. You missed the shot. Hey, good effort. Let's keep trying, right?
yeah,
But one thing that's important with that too, that I've been learning is like you got to stick to that discipline. There is no
yeah,
like, "Oh, the ball went out. Nah, it's okay. It's okay." Like you just keep playing. No, bro, if the ball goes out, the ball goes out. Like
yeah,
we have to honor these rules that we've set,
yeah,
right? Or
yeah,
it's kind of like if you grab the ball with your hands and you decide to carry it and it's like, we're not nah, we're gonna be lenient on that rule. And it's
hmm,
like, no, 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 no. The rules are the rules.
yeah,
So that's why I think it's even important when we're setting those boundaries, like you're saying, that there's clarity. Because how
hmm,
realistic is it, right? Like if you're playing soccer and your rule is that you have to shoot from half field and back, what kind of fucking game are
yeah.
we playing here?
Yeah, and I think it even goes back. I think you've talked about like discipline, and like discipline doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive. Discipline does not need to be like with this like what the fuck like because I think like oftentimes we think of discipline and it's like pull your fucking boots up by the whatever and just grinding and fuck feelings and fuck this fuck that, right? That's discipline, and it's like really it's not.
Right, right.
um that I don't even know how what to put that in. I mean, sure, it gets the job done, but discipline really comes with a lot of, I think, self-reflection and self-awareness as to, once again, what is the purpose, what's the goal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so but anyways, I kind of wanted to segue, kind of using some of the topics that we were talking about. I did want to kind of touch on the, like, a little bit of our Reiki experience, and I know you, like, we had Christine, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, a few weeks ago. And I'm just to give a quick, like, tidbit on my experience doing the Reiki breathing. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you want to give a quick one, or do you want to save it so we can really go in depth into it?
Well, no, well, real quick, I
Yeah.
won't even
Okay.
go into
Oh yeah.
depth.
Go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
like, it was a good experience. I feel like it gave me healing. And we could definitely save it for the next one because it was a lot. It was definitely a
Yeah. I
lot.
don't want to rush it either.
That's fair. But what I wanted to share was, I feel like it allowed me a moment with my dad where, and I've talked a lot about my dad. He's in the other room right now, so I don't even know if he's hearing. I had to
Just
fucking
start whispering.
yeah, just start
Whispering.
whispering.
All right. Go ahead.
And so and so the other day, like, one of the things one of the things that, like, with moving in with my parents is navigating, like, all of their wants and desires, right? Because now that I'm here, it's like, oh, do this, do that, da, da,
Oh,
da, 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 right? And so
yeah.
whatever, I'm not gonna get into all that shit. But one of my wants, and I fucking told him coming back in the house, was like, hey, we're gonna pick this shit back up. And I'm telling him, like, I don't give a fuck how it looks to you. It's not like about you, like, it's about us, right?
Ooh.
And so, like, and obviously when I say, my dad, he like, oh, you fucking say. I'm over here trying to be fucking serious. He's just like, oh yeah, yeah, so Mr. Serious all of a sudden.
He's like, bitch. Oh my god.
Pretty much, bro. And so, and it was so funny because, like, one of the first nights that we practiced when I came back, I remember we were learning this new song, and dude, my dad he got a bug stuck up his ass or something. Cause dude, he, like, just got really mad at me because I was just trying to figure out this song, but I was, like, trying to figure out my way. Like, I'm trying to be free with it, and
Right.
he kind of got back to, like, no, do it right. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But I could tell he got, like, really, like, frustrated and just, like, at his wits end. And I kind of, like, snapped back at him, like, dude, chill, like, fucking chill. And so it kind of got a little tense for a bit. And then I was like, whatever, like, and I started asking my dad, oh, how do you play it? Tell me, teach me. I kind of, like, surrender.
Giving him
I'm
some
like, then,
power.
yeah, like, teach me then. All right, fine, whatever. So we get through it. And then the next morning, he was downstairs eating breakfast. I was going down, and I remember just feeling rage, bro. Like, I saw him, and I was just like, man, fucking, why are you so fucking stubborn? Type deal.
Right.
And then I thought to myself, I'm like, why are you mad at him? Like, why can't you just forgive him? Like, did he ask you for
Mm.
forgiveness? No. But, like, what are you trying to do here? What's the purpose? Like, what? Like, what? Like, is it about the how or is it about the what?
Right.
And because
Right.
I told myself I have this goal. I want to play more with him. I want to da 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 whatever. And so from that split second, I fucking legitimately forgave him. He didn't ask for it. He didn't deserve it. He probably would have fucking been that same person
Right.
given
Right.
that same circumstance, right? And I still said, so what? It's not about him, it's about me, you
Yeah.
know? And then I remember in that moment, like, that rage went from a 10 to a 0. And I was like, hey, dad, are we gonna practice tonight or what? And I could tell he was like, I could tell he had a
Wow.
reaction, because
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I know he knows it wasn't the smoothest practice that we've had. And once it ever like since then, it's been smooth sailing. He's been all of a sudden a little softer with his touch and whatnot. But, like, I mean, and I don't know, maybe it's a coincidence, but I can't help but feel it's like you know what's what, you know, and you fucked up, and I'm gonna be graceful in this moment, and really be genuine about it, not just to be like, oh, I'm rubbing it in your face.
Right. Like there was, and I'm sure you probably noticed the difference because there was no pettiness afterwards, right?
Right? There wasn't. There
Yeah,
really was from
dude, I
him or me.
appreciate
Like,
sharing that.
and so, like, I think once again we could get into the Reiki thing next time, but I feel that sense of healing allowed me. that moment. And maybe that's all I
Wow.
got from it, you know? Like maybe I used up my Reiki piece for
your, your Reiki battery's dead.
Yep, I gotta go back.
Till
So
August 19th when we do it again.
there you go.
No, but you know what I think, and dude, I think thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I really, that's powerful, man. That's so powerful, and I think, yeah, it sounds like in that moment you cared more about. I feel like you're at a point where you care more for connection than being right, and I
Yeah.
think that's what drove you to just be like, what's your goal, right? Tying that
Mhm.
into earlier, like your goal was not who's right here or who's treating each other right. The goal here is like, I want connection with my dad.
Right.
And I think
Mhm.
that's kind of what allowed you and your body to just like, all right, what do we
Mhm.
do not to get in his ass, but like what do we do to build that connection? And it was like, let's go
Mhm.
back to practice.
Yeah.
Dude, that's dope, bro.
Yeah, I
That's
know
dope,
that.
man.
Yeah, so I mean that's still journey, but yeah, I mean still like looking to play more and yeah, hopefully get some out of it, bro. Once again, make it make sense.
Yeah, yeah, no
You
doubt. I
know.
mean, I think we're headed in the right direction. I always had to remind myself we're a lot. I always had to remember, like, I'm so grateful that we have such a tight community that loves us, that supports us, that knows that we are in this trying to figure it out. And that when I have those moments of guilt where I feel like shit, I need to show up and fucking have something amazing for them, and I realize like, bro, they're loving us no matter what. Like, this is in my head, it's you in your head and us just trying to navigate through it. So, um, yeah, well, I think we're exactly where we need to be, bro. We really are.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, let's leave it there. We'll definitely get more into it now. Well, I know we were supposed to talk about the Reiki thing, but the conversation was good. I didn't want to interrupt that. I do want to spend the time to talk about it because I don't think it's a 2 minute conversation. I want to be mindful of our time.
Yeah.
What I can tell y'all for now is August 19th, we are gonna run it back. Um, we got a little taste of what it did for Sant. I mentioned how much it kind of really impacted me and realized what my body was capable of. The drinking has slowed down a lot more than it ever was. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said that I don't, but to how I was before, it's I definitely listen to it a lot more than I ever have. Really blown away by the capabilities of my body. So if you're interested, whether you're running it back for the second time or you want to try it out, it's honestly it's a dope ass experience. No matter where you're at, like there really is no right way to do it. Sant knows that.
Yeah.
And August 19th in Orange, we will be doing it at the studio, working with Healing Connections, with Christine, with my guy Cesar, who's going to be helping me facilitate some of the group that we're going to be doing with the men, as well as the Reiki cleanse and the sound breath that's going to come with that. So if you are interested, shoot us a DM. We'll send you that link. And if you guys are going through anything, if you guys need any help, if you guys feel like you're stuck, man, send us a message. We'd be more than happy to point you guys in the right direction, whether it's hook you up with some therapists, some book recommendations, whatever we can do. Please, please, please don't try to do this shit alone. Just as we're trying to learn, it's not giving answers, it's just building community understanding that we can fucking do this shit together. So as
Hmm.
always, I appreciate y'all listening. Sant, you got anything?
That's it, man. Take it easy, everyone. Be kind to yourself.
I appreciate you, bro. Everyone have a good night.
Peace.